again, we gather in search of the truth, dark, and mystery. It's the Drunk Turkey Show.
Big development today in the investigation into the murders of 4 University of Idaho students. According to state and local officials and court documents, 28-year-old Brian Christopher Koberger has been arrested. He was arrested in a raid this morning in Pennsylvania.
We have new details on what Brian Koberger was doing right before his arrest. Police says a tactical team burst in to arrest the Idaho murder suspect. He was in pajamas and latex gloves, stuffing trash into Ziploc bags.
Hey, greetings from the year 3000. It still sucks. This is Philip J. Pride, and you're listening to the Drunken Turkey Show. Your one-stop for this sort of thing. Hit that button, like and subscribe. You know what to do, just like every other podcast.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Drunk Turkey Show. I'm Daniel, and thank you guys for waiting on me. I was having some technical difficulties with my computer. It turned off on me, had to reboot, had to do a bunch of stuff to it, and so it's finally going. And I initially thought I lost everything. I didn't. I actually found what I was looking for, so I was able to get some of the stuff back. And Uncle Alert, what is from Missy Blue? Thank you. So tonight we have a twofer, right? A 2-for-1. And we're going to be talking about the newest updates in the Nancy Guthrie case. We're going to go over what Sheriff Nano said. We're going to talk about the developments with the DNA and some of the things that Pima County have dropped themselves, including a bit of a statement, and then also the ransom notes and what they mean and how it affects this case. And then in the second half of the show, we're going to talk about the Timothy Dees murder that occurred 2022, I believe. Young man goes missing, and his body and his remains are found about 200 yards away from where he was the night before and where he called 911 from, in a town he was not familiar with anybody but one person. And on the 911 call, he's saying that that person is threatening harm against him. For whatever reason, law enforcement, in my opinion, don't want to investigate it. We have a lot of things that we're going to be listening to and going over. And so that's going to be on the second half of the show. You're not going to want to miss that one. All right. So without further ado, let's get into it. And we're going to start off with the Nancy Guthrie case. And so first thing that came out was hair found in Nancy Guthrie's home is not linked to a suspect in the abduction per the sheriff. Testing on a hair found at Tucson, Arizona area home is complete and does not point to a suspect in the 84-year-old's abduction. Pima County Sheriff Chris Nanos told ABC News on Thursday. The hair was done and there was nothing, Nanos said in an interview. The sample is also a mix of many as 4 people that the sheriff revealed. Now, this is important, and I think that this comes in, when we see what else was released today, I think it's pretty telling. So you have the DNA coming back as a nothing burger up to this point, all right? And we're going to listen to parts of interviews that Nanos did, but in those interviews, he talked about the DNA and where it's at, and it's in different labs, and different labs are doing things, and there's some genealogy stuff that's going on. In fact, some sources have reached out to some mainstream journalists who have reported that the genealogy at this point, they have gotten somewhere on a few samples, but it's not gotten anywhere or led to a suspect. Meaning, and this is kind of what I was concerned about early on, is that there's probably quite a bit of unknown DNA in the house, but they don't have something there that is pointing to a specific person. Like if we were to talk about the Brian Koberger case, which, by the way, guys, I'm going to have Steve Gonsalves on the show, Kaylee's father, probably week after next. So stay tuned for that. He's going to be talking about the Cy interview that he had, and the information that he had beforehand, and how maybe perhaps his ideas have now come together since speaking with Cy and knowing what he knows. So be on the lookout for that. That's probably going to be a week after next, because we both got some busy week next week. And so that'll be me and Steve G again. So, well, back to here. And so here, I was concerned that the DNA, that they were just going to have a lot of unknown DNA, and they were going to have to go through the haystack. In the Brian Koberger case, there was DNA on a knife sheath that was brought in by the killer, and it was single sourced, and it was a significant amount of cells that prosecution believed that, and also the lab believed that the specimen was, or that the cells were transferred there by physical touch, not that it was transferred by somebody else, because there would be obviously a mixture in that point and or less cells to examine. So there's none of that in this case because they're going through so many people. I was concerned about that. And the thing is, we're probably going to find a lot of people are going to be ruled out, as you know, because they have alibis or whatever the case may be. You know, I talked about, if we looked at what Nancy had done that night, she got into an Uber at some point in the evening. Who knows how long that Uber driver had been operating that day, if it was towards the end of his day or he had been riding for a while at that point and had multiple rides. There's a lot of DNA that's probably mixing with what Nancy was wearing. And if she sat on the bed, you know, to undress, or if she undressed and threw her clothes on the bed that she was wearing and then put on her nightgown and then put the clothes in the hamper, or whatever the case may be, you're looking at a lot of transfers there. And so, and it's going to be a lot of people that weren't involved. Now, is the needle that they're looking for there? Most likely. There's most likely DNA from the suspect somewhere in that place. They just haven't found it yet. Or if they found it, they haven't gotten it unmixed yet. It's not been completed. They had an unrooted hair. This hair came back to nothing. Unrooted means that there was no root on it. That means it wasn't yanked out, which the ones that are yanked out typically have more DNA and things of that nature. This was something different. Again, could, you know, Nancy have gotten in the back of a vehicle of the Uber and somebody who was in there before shed some hair, and then it's now in Nancy's, you know, clothing, and it survives going to Tommaso and Annie's house and then comes off at her house. I think it is possible. It's also possible that that hair could have come off one of the numerous of investigators that walked the property before CSI got in there. You know, there's no telling, you know, how much DNA that's going to be in there that's unidentified. But what it does say is, and I mentioned this before, is that there's nothing there that says that there's a that this was from the suspect. Now, could it be because he cleaned up? You know, there was a fairly packed backpack that the suspect was wearing. Is it plausible that he may have had some Clorox spray or Lysol spray in there and sprayed around the area in which he was walking and he touched? I think it's possible. We know that he didn't clean up the blood, but could he have cleaned up other parts of the house? I don't know. But I think that the DNA was a really bad. I think that, well, let me put it this way. I think law enforcement was really hoping that the DNA was going to lead somewhere that they had, because now that it didn't, Pima County is releasing information about the video and also about the ransom notes. So I don't think it's coincidence that they're releasing information after they get bad news on the DNA. What does that tell us? That tells us that most likely, we're looking at a scenario where law enforcement are starting over again, back to square one, back to, you know, the tips and things that they have. Now, let's go through what Pima County Sheriff's Department did for media release. The Pima County Sheriff's Department and the Federal Bureau of Investigation Phoenix Field Office have been working together for the past 6 months to locate Nancy Guthrie. Nancy was last confirmed at her residence at the Catalina Foothills neighborhood in Tucson on the evening of January 31st, 2026 through our collective investigative resources. With the assistance of the private sector, we have recovered videos from her residence showing an unidentified male who knows what happened to Nancy. Two videos recovered from Nancy's doorbell camera may be from two separate days. These videos are critical to our understanding of the unidentified male's behaviors and choices. They indicate that he took steps to prepare for the event on the night of January 31st to February 1st. So I think there's a big clue here based on what they're saying. Based on what they're saying here, it sounds like they believe that the initial appearance of the unidentified male was done in steps to prepare. So this was what, reconnaissance, surveillance, and I agree with him. I think that he goes up there. We see him without the backpack. We see him again a different night. Now that it is confirmed, and it does appear that that's going to be the case, that it is two different nights. He comes back a different night with a backpack and a gun. So what occurred that first night, maybe perhaps it was never a failed, I thought maybe perhaps there was a possibility it could have been a failed attempt. But I wondered what happened in that failed attempt that made him feel that he needed to arm himself. I don't know. But now I'm thinking about it, is maybe perhaps he was never attempting to get into the house that night. It was just about checking out the surveillance, maybe perhaps checking out the response. I've noted the way he was standing in front of the doorbell camera was in a position of ready to move. It was not in a position of motion. He had the left foot and the left arm forward, right arm and right leg backward. And so people don't walk that way. What he was staring at is, it appears he was staring at directly at the doorbell camera. Why he would be doing that is, I think he was looking to see if anybody picked up the feed. The Nest doorbell camera has a weird feature where if it starts to record you, there will be a green light. The minute somebody picks up the feed, let's just say that I had this Nest doorbell camera and you walked outside to my front door. As you approach and it started to record you, you'll see a green light. If I turn on my phone, activate the camera and start watching what is on the doorbell camera, the green light that is on the doorbell will start to blink. And I think that's what he's looking at. When he's walking up with the backpack, even though he's approaching the left side of the door, he is directly looking at the doorbell camera the entire time. And so I think that is, again, him knowing and being aware of the function of the doorbell camera and if somebody's watching. Now, what I think he could be doing is he could have been surveilling, which I do think that does mean he probably resided close or was renting a place close or was working fairly close to the Guthrie residence, because I think what he was checking was the response, of the house. What was going to happen after he was out there in a mask? Did police ever go out there and take a report? Was there an active police presence? Because, I assure you, if any of you guys, tell me in the comment section if you guys agree. But if you opened up your app on your Ring device or your Nest camera and you see a masked person the night before just standing there, are you not going to call the police? Are you not going to, and if you're a vulnerable person, are you not going to contact family? And so I think that's what they were trying to do, is to see what was the response. Was there a subscription, etc. Now, why did they wait so many weeks? Maybe perhaps this person thought that by waiting so long, that the footage of the first time around would no longer be there. Because I do think that this person is tech savvy. I do think that there's also the possibility that it's work related. Maybe perhaps he had to go to work and he wasn't getting another weekend off until that weekend. Or maybe perhaps it was family related, where like in the Long Island serial killer with Rex Humerman, he had to wait until his family was out of town for him to go out and commit his crimes. Was it something of that nature going on, which is why he waited 3 weeks? I don't know. I think any guess is as good as those three. But I believe that it's probably one of those three: was understanding the response, seeing if law enforcement ever show up, seeing if families start to stay over, see how vulnerable she really is. Those type of things. And so it also tells me that, and even though we're going to go through this here in a second, Now, the person needing to do that most likely isn't somebody who has access to the house. There wouldn't be any purpose of going there and doing those things if you had access to the information about whether or not there's a subscription. You had access to knowing where the cameras were and were able to go there at any time, pull a dry run, so to speak. If you had access to the house, I don't think you're doing this type of reconnaissance. This goes on to say investigators continue to pursue every available technological and investigative lead. However, community members remain a vital resource as we speak to provide answers for Nancy's family. We would like to thank those who have already provided tips and information. We are asking for the public continued assistance and are confident that you can further in the effort. We know there are individuals familiar with this unidentified male who may have observed changes in his behavior and around the time frame of the videos to include a change in mood, display of anxiety, nervousness, or irritability. That's why I think if they had a video of the vehicle, they should release it, because this could cause a reaction like such. I did it in the Brian Koberger case. It caused him to react in a certain manner. A change in physical appearance, hair color or cut, growth or removal of facial hair. Unexplained injuries, cuts on the hands or bruises during the period that Nancy was last seen. Normal routine changes, missing work, classes or appointments, sudden departures of the area around the time of the disappearance, vehicle cleaning or repairs, unexplained interest or disinterest in the Nancy Guthrie neighborhood, noticeable intense interest or disinterest in the investigation, or unexplained knowledge of the situation. 2 ransom notes attached were sent to local national media outlets that purport to have been written by the kidnappers. The local CBS affiliated in Tucson, KOLD TV 13 News, received the first note on February 2nd and then the second on February 6th. These communications revealed distinct patterns of word choice, syntax, and phraseology that reflect the writer's unique linguistic style. They also provide value insight into the person's mindset, motive, and the elevation of their tone over time. As the unidentified male depicted in the video, we believe these distinctive linguistic characteristics may be recognizable to someone who knows or has interacted with the note's writer. A friend, a family member, coworker, classmate, or acquaintance may recognize these patterns of expression and possess information that could help identify the individual responsible. In some cases, there are times when people who have knowledge initially do not come forward. This may be due to their close relationship with who might be involved, as well as concern for their own safety, reputation, and standing in the community and among their friends. We recognize relationships and loyalties change over time, as do people and their perspectives. It is not too late to come forward, regardless of how insignificant you think your information may be, or whether you think we already are aware of it. Please contact us. If you have any questions, please call 1-800-CALL-FBI or 888-CRIME. You can remain anonymous. A reward is available for your information. And so they pull out this information. They give out the fact that there was a person there 2 nights, and then they're also giving out some facts about, the ransom notes themselves. Again, this kind of screams that the information that they got, the bad news that they got about the DNA, was worse than maybe perhaps they were willing to admit. I think that you make a move like this immediately after that when you feel like you're starting all the way over. Now you need the help of the public again. Now, these are the ransom notes. It goes, this is the first one. Hello, Savannah. We have your mother, Nancy. She is safe but scared. She will be held for ransom, and once payment is received, she will be released unharmed. We will be holding her for a maximum of 7 days. You will need to send Bitcoin in the amount of 4 million USD before 5 p.m. on Thursday, the 5th. If payment is not received, the ransom will be increased to 6 million USD, which will need to be paid by 5 p.m. on Monday, the 9th. Once payment is received, the Bitcoin address to the Bitcoin address below, she will be released within 12 hours of deposit to a safe drop-off location back in Tucson. If payment is not received by the last deadline on Monday, the 9th at 5 p.m., she will be killed. Your mother is aware of this, and her life is in your hands. It is in the best interest of everyone to have this completed as soon as possible. You will not be able to contact me from here on out. There will be no negotiation. Do not play games. Law enforcement will not be able to help you. And then there's a something blacked out, which I'm assuming is the Bitcoin address. And then underneath that, it says she had a white smartwatch on the floor of the foot of her bed, and a white floodlight in the backyard was destroyed. Please enter your date of birth and terms of conditions. So there's a name and email address. I wish they wouldn't black those out. You know what I mean? I wish they would keep those. I would like to see what it is that they put. You know, could that lead to an actual person? Could that give a motive? Could that could there be a saying in there? Could there be something? Now, when I look at this one and I look at the next one, where this is the one that came in second, it goes Guthrie family. So it starts off different. The first one is directed towards Savannah. The second one is Guthrie family. We did not grasp the seriousness of her physical condition. We never intended to hurt her. That was not our intention. She perished shortly after she was taken. We believe it was heart related. She is buried in nature now. Nothing you could have done could have changed the outcome. We want your family to know this and hope y'all can find peace. We are truly sorry. Very different tone, very different type of feelings behind it. Almost like, now obviously there's some minimization here, and there's some, they're trying to maybe not be as culpable. However, it is very different than the first one. And so if I were to, well, there's something also blacked out here at the bottom before it said, please enter your date of birth. You see that? So I wonder what this is that's blacked out. I wonder if the name and email address are the same, or the date of birth is the same. If they have the same name, email address, and date of birth that they entered, if those things are the same, then I would say that the writer from both emails is the same person, or at least from the same, are related, so to speak. It seems that they're pretty confident in that. And so I'm going to guesstimate that whatever here is redacted I don't think it's the Bitcoin address. It could be. If it is, and it's the same Bitcoin address, then obviously it's the same person, or at least the same, coming from the same place. Now, if it is, and again, we don't know that there are completely legit, right? It appears that there are some members of law enforcement who are undecided in that. So take that for what it is. I think that if the Apple Watch was at the foot of the bed, I think you'd probably have to take this a lot more serious as being legit. If it wasn't, or if it was just on the floor, then that's something that that I think somebody could have, guessed, right? But it's interesting that was what they had put in. And also it sounds like maybe perhaps this was pre-written, because you have everything there. You have the Bitcoin address, and then afterwards you have proof that, or what it is that they are showing that it's proof of them, which is the white smartwatch on the floor. Now, somebody to remember that. I mean, that probably tells me that she probably had it on and it was thrown off of her wrist. Again, going back to this guy being tech savvy and understanding that, her taking that would possibly be traceable, right? And so let's go under the impression that these are real. I think that these are definitely from two different people. I would say that the second one is most likely from a female, and I would guesstimate that these people are related in some form, whether it is husband, wife, girlfriend, boyfriend. I doubt mother, son, but could be. And the reason I say that is because you have two different tones. You have one also that's going towards the family, and it's almost trying to ease the pain of the Guthrie family to a certain extent, right? And saying, hope you find peace. You know, she died naturally. There was nothing you could do, etc. Right? The first ransom note writer didn't want to contact them again. They were not even put in here. You will not be able to contact me from here on out. There will be no negotiation. And there was a threat that she would be, you know, her life would be taken. And so why I would think that there's a relationship here is because you have somebody defying the other person. My assumption that this person here who wrote this note could possibly be the intruder. They seem as callous as the intruder appears walking up to the door. And so even if there are two people, I don't necessarily fall under the guys that one is the brains and the other one is the brawn and one is stupid. I think you're probably as weak as you're as strong as your weakest link, right? And if you had somebody who was an idiot going in there and committing the crime, they would have both gotten caught. And so I do think that they're in probably cahoots, but there was probably one that was doing everything. And maybe perhaps one was a driver. I don't think that there was two people in that house. Now, why I think that they're related is because we don't have a missing persons report. We don't have somebody dead. We don't have something that would have made this person who was desperate and went out there and kidnapped her not do something to the other person. Right. And so it most likely, because of that, is somebody that is not just like a random partner. Because if it was just like a random partner, like, you know, how Jennifer Coffindaffer has mentioned that she thought it was like a wrench tech by proxy, where maybe perhaps there's people recruited, or there is this organized criminal enterprise that is behind this, right? If you had a scenario like that and somebody within the group starts talking or starts reaching out, going behind the back of the person who committed the crime and also wrote the first ransom note, that's probably not going to end well for that person. And this person was willing to send this out to the news media, the same one that the first one went out to. I mean, it's almost guaranteeing that the person was going to find out about it, the initial person. And so that person who wrote the second note was confident enough in doing so that the other person was going to harm them. And again, we don't have anybody missing that once they started looking into their history. And maybe they just haven't connected the dots. I guess there's the possibility there that somebody could have come up, you know, gone, deceased, or missing, and law enforcement just haven't connected those dots yet. But that's what you'd be looking for. You hear what I'm saying? So they sound different. The only reason I would think that maybe perhaps a reason why law enforcement would believe they're the same is if they came from the same IP address, which has been reported to not be the case, that they are from different IP addresses. And we also have some things that are redacted that I wonder if they would connect the two ransom notes. Now, Sheriff Nanos has kind of come out and said that, you know, he's cleared some people in the past, and now he's kind of walking those things back. Now, I don't find coincidence. Again, I see coincidences, and I think that there's no such thing as a coincidence. And I like to look further into it. My question when it comes to certain things like this is who, what, when, where, and why. Why is this happening? And as far as when is like, why is it happening now? You know, why is he coming forward saying things like this? And I find out, we find out that the men that were detained in the Guthrie investigation filed notice of claim against Pima County Sheriff. So lawyers for 2 Arizona men detained during the search for Nancy Guthrie, as well as the mother of one of them, the men have issued a notice of claim against Pima County Sheriff and a detective. The lawsuit is addressed to the sheriff, Chris Nanos, and a detective. It alleges wrongful arrest and property damage. Carlos Palazuelos, one of the men named in the claim, was detained February 10th for questioning and released later without any charges. The same day, the other man, Daniel Maddox, was placed in handcuffs at the home and was searched and held for several hours. The notice says it also names his mother, who owns the home, and alleges damaged property. And so you have this, right? And then the possibility of a lawsuit coming forward. Then you have Nanas saying something like this when questioned about people being cleared.
Yes.
The two folks we saw detained in February, have they been completely ruled out at this point?
Nobody's completely ruled out. What it is, we took information, developed it for a warrant from a judge, a magistrate, and we served that warrant. All the information we gathered is gathered, and because we didn't make an arrest or we released some people, doesn't mean they're cleared. It just means that we don't have enough now to hold you. We don't have it. The courts get to tell us that. And
so he's basically saying that they're not cleared. They aren't, nobody's cleared, and that we had evidence and information that led us in that direction. And we don't have enough to hold you now. I think he's saying that because he doesn't want to admit that they were wrong, because, again, a lawsuit was just filed. Now, the coward thing about this is that he throws the family under the same bus, because if he doesn't come out and say, oh, no, the family are cleared, but those guys aren't, then Carlos has even more of a right for a lawsuit, because now Pima County is still alluding that he is a suspect. And so the cowardly thing that I feel that is going on here is he's willing to throw the family under the bus because he knows, because of the pending lawsuit, that if he says that they're cleared and doesn't say that these guys are cleared, then that's going to make a case stronger for them during the lawsuit time. Or if he goes and says, oh no, they're all clear, well, that still gives Carlos more ammunition for that lawsuit, saying, hey, I was wrongfully, put in this situation. So it seems to me that this is more to do with the fact that there's a lawsuit coming down the line for what they did to Carlos. And I wouldn't even be surprised if Luke Daly does one. I don't know. Maybe there's something there that he's not doing one. I don't know. But I wouldn't be surprised if there is one. And I think if he comes out and starts saying, oh, yeah, we were wrong, we made mistakes, blah, 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 and that's going to hurt their case for a lawsuit. If he comes out and says that certain people are cleared but can't say that these individuals are clear because that would hurt the lawsuit argument, then it's just as bad. And so that's kind of what I'm seeing here. But let's listen to what he said when asked about the family being cleared.
And that's something, absolutely, yes. They could come up again. I think I early on said, look, there is no suspects. The family is not suspects. They're not. Now, does that mean that ends it forever? No. What happens if next week somebody calls and says, hey, a family member did this, and here's how I know it? That always opens a door. But we look at it and go, okay, can we eliminate these people from what we have in front of us, the evidence, the DNA, the whatever, the videos? Yeah, I think you can eliminate them. And so that elimination happens. But it's like any case criminal. Because you're eliminated doesn't mean you didn't do it. It doesn't mean that we can't get more information. Says the two search.
I think he's pretty wrong there, because you don't eliminate somebody unless you have some pretty tangible proof or evidence that it was impossible for them to have committed a crime. You know what I mean? I think he's just talking in circles and just saying things because he understands that there's a lawsuit coming down the line, and and he's not trying to make it worse off in a number of ways. And what he's doing is he's throwing some people under the bus, whether that's Carlos, whether that's Luke, whether that's the family. He's willing to throw them under the bus just solely because he doesn't want, face the lawsuit per se. And so take accountability. If you made a mistake, it's understandable. You're gonna have to pay for the damages of the house because you made the mistake. You might have to pay a little bit because some people names were thrown through the mud. But don't make it worse. You know what I mean? Don't make it worse. Let's see. I got a couple of starred. Let's get the likes up, guys. I'd appreciate it if we can do that. Steelers fans comes in with 30 joules, and so does Avery, another true crime junkie. Thank you so much, guys. We appreciate you guys. And so that's kind of where I'm at on what Sheriff Danos is doing here, in my opinion, when it comes to those things. I wish they would give a description of the vehicle. That's what I wish they would do. Let me answer a few questions, and then we're going to transition into the next topic. So if you have any questions, put them up. Put a couple of stars so that I know that you're talking to me. Dude's a goof. Yeah. Nanos never ever answers the simplest question. Always is a big explanation. No answer to any questions. I do too. You do well, Daniel, to understand what Nanos tries to say. I'm trying. I'm trying to understand what he's saying. It takes me a minute to I guess get it, because he does ramble. He does go on, and doesn't answer the questions, as he mentioned. He talks about in the interviews that they didn't release the crime scene. They just went back. I'm like, that's releasing the crime scene. Now, what he's saying as far as the family goes, I don't think that they're suspect, but he's right. If something were to come up, you have to keep your mind open. You have to be able to be open to the evidence. If somebody comes up and says something and has evidence to back it up, you gotta look at it. You can't be biased to what your opinion was before. And so I love your humor and explain. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. You had a drone in the backpack. Didn't you see the CSI guy on YouTube and somebody showed clearly a drone in the back? Yeah, that was this show. That was this show. I still think he does have a drone in the backpack. Now, let's talk about this part, right? If there's two people here, I think that there's the possibility that this person is driving. I think that one of the problems that they're having is getting a vehicle, right? Because they haven't given a description of a vehicle yet, right? Maybe that's because there's multiple vehicles driven around that night and they're not certain which one's which. Meaning it's not like in the Idaho case where you had a camera facing an intersection that led to the victim's house and there was only one way in, one way out. And if you drove in there, you would be seen leaving. And so in that case, you had Brian Koberger going in multiple times. And then during the specific time that the murders were occurring, his vehicle had gone in there just shortly before that and then was seen leaving at a high rate of speed afterwards. Obviously, there's not that going on here. Now, one way to elude the investigation is if maybe perhaps he had multiple vehicles. Now, if this is a, husband, wife, girlfriend, boyfriend, or a relationship of some other man, woman type of thing, which I think it's, in my opinion, I think the person on the porch is a man. And so, just don't want to exclude any other relationships that could possibly be involved here. But I do think that if it was that and you had somebody in a relationship with somebody else, the evidence to me kind of leads me to believe that there's only one person on scene, one person with Nancy. Maybe perhaps that person got dropped off, right? The suspect, the person that did the dropping off, the other party too, goes back home, gets another vehicle. If there's two of them, and I have one vehicle, my wife has another. A lot of couples do. And so is it possible they went back, picked up the other one, and that's why you don't see a vehicle there going in, before 140 and leaving after 228? And if you don't have that, that could be difficult to determine which one, was involved. Or maybe perhaps, that person goes home, gets a vehicle, drives by at 2:00, and then comes back around and then whips around about 2:30 and picks them up. And the reason you do that is because, well, now you have this one vehicle that is in motion, but it's during the time of the commission of the crime, based on when the camera disconnected and when the heart rate, the pacemaker disconnects. And so, is that possible? And is that what's making it difficult? Maybe. I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility. It does speak to a lot of forethought and a lot of planning, a lot of expertise, especially when you see this person walking up and things of that nature. Let's see. Aquarian One says, "Hi, Daniel. I heard A&T are in Italy. Any truth to that rumor? Thanks." I have no idea, to be honest with you. I have no idea. That's the first I've heard of it. If they are, I don't know. If they're not, I think it's kind of a weird rumor, but I have no idea where they are. I've never talked to them. I would if they were willing to. I don't blame them. Not at this point. But I'm the type of person that requires evidence. You know what I mean? Motive. There's a lot of motives out there, right? A lot of people could have motive to something bad happening to someone. Somebody can always benefit from something like that, regardless if you think it was a benefit or not. If somebody has life insurance, if somebody has a job that they wanted, if somebody had property, I mean, you can always find motive in or benefit, to somebody getting hurt or losing their life or going missing. In every case, it could be a simple heart attack for somebody, right? Like if somebody had a heart attack and they pass away, you can look at people like, oh, well, who could have benefited from that? A competitor at their job, somebody who maybe perhaps wanted the home, maybe somebody who benefited from life insurance. I mean, and it was just a heart attack. Just because somebody benefits from it doesn't mean that that something was done about it. Get what I'm saying? And so that's kind of where I'm at on that. So for me to blame like the family members and things of that nature, I just would need some evidence. You know what I mean? More than just, well, they could have benefited. Well, somebody benefits out of somebody's death in every case. In every single case, in every single death, whether it was homicide or natural or whatever, somebody benefits in some form or fashion. And so I personally don't think they were involved. Now, I don't have evidence to say that they weren't. So, if you have that opinion, that's your opinion, and I'm not going to castrate you for having it. I know I was a little bit harsh last time, but that was mainly because I do talk and hang out with a lot of victim family members, whether it's the case that we're going to talk about here next with Timothy Dees, the Evansdale murders, the Gonsalveses from the Idaho case. I used to speak with Amy Malavec, relative. And so a lot of different cases. And so sometimes I get a little bit defensive over my victim family members because I know what they go through. And I know I've talked to them and things can be very hard. And so, but me personally, until there's something that's pretty strong, I don't discredit it, but I don't think it's there. I would say that the person that committed this crime is probably like somebody we've never heard of, somebody outside of the circle. It's going to be, when this person does get arrested, because I do think that they will. But when somebody does get arrested, I think that it's going to be somebody we've never heard of. I still think it has something to do with the construction house up the street with lights on the porch video. It could be. That was, a lot of people, including Steve, True Crime Web, thought that maybe perhaps it was somebody who was working in construction near the house, or somebody that was able to surveil. I think it's very possible. The fact that the people that were picked up and looked at into, Daly and Carlos, those two men, one of them lived fairly close. The other one may have been in the area a few times. Kind of tells us what they're looking at. I don't think they got a video of the guy leaving the area. I don't know if they have I think they're not positive or sold on a vehicle at all. At this point, I just don't see why they wouldn't bring it up. Let's see. If not involved in some way, A&T should have the guts to give evidence that they're not involved. What have they done differently? I mean, give evidence to whom? I would assume that would be to law enforcement. That's who you would need to give evidence to. From what I understand is they had law enforcement staying in their property, especially while that Derek Colella guy was texting them. I don't think they've lawyered up by any means. And I don't think they've stopped talking to law enforcement. Now, if those things occurred, if they lawyered up, stopped talking to law enforcement, weren't cooperative, I would agree with your statement here about having guts and coming forward. Now, I think what this falls on is more on the police and the sheriff's department. If you have somebody that you suspect is not a suspect, and they're not going to do it, whether it's this case or any case, and this has been my gripe in all the true crime cases I cover, is that you'll have things that come out about persons like Ashley Banfield saying that at one time Tommaso was a suspect, and I believe at one time he was, but I also believe in the result of the investigation. There's an accusation, an investigation, and a result. We can't just look at one of the three. We got to look at all of them, right? And so far, the result is that they aren't suspects. Maybe they're not completely cleared at this point, but they aren't suspects. So I look at all those things. I can't just look at just the one part of it. But if they did lawyer up, that's where I was going. Law enforcement know that information got out there. They know how the family member had been treated. I don't see what hurt it would do if you, and they're not, and I hate to word it this way because it's going to almost sound like I'm saying that maybe perhaps they believe that they were involved. But if you believe that these people are cleared, why not come out and say what cleared them? It's not like they are going to be used in trial against whoever it is that you arrest. You have to have evidence and things of that nature to do so. Like, for instance, Brian Koberger, and I bring him up a lot because that's one of the biggest cases that I covered very in depth. He wanted to bring up alternative suspects and things of that nature. And there's got to be evidence, and that's got to fly and get into court. And if it doesn't, and you're putting out there, hey, it wasn't them because we have, Tommaso on camera smoking a cigarette outside of his house at, 2:00 in the morning or something of that nature. We have him surfing the web and, he's, his phone did a camera thing. I recognized his face, and his face is what turned on the phone. When he went to the bathroom at 2:10 in the morning. or at 1:48 in the morning, the same time we see somebody walking up. I don't know. Let's see. What came to the mixed DNA? Did that included a hair, or is it separate and it's still being analyzed? I believe that the 4 DNA mixtures is still being analyzed. I don't know about, I think the hair was a nothing burger, but based on Pima County now releasing information and evidence, I would strongly suspect that whatever DNA analysis that they've done has all come to a nothing burger. It's unfortunate, but I think that's where we're at this point on it. Avery, another true crime junkie. Well, thank you for your $5. All right. So, guys, I'm going to be bringing up a new case that we're going to be covering. I want to give you guys a little bit of an intro to it, just so that we can get a little bit of a background. And so, without further ado, this is the Timothy Dees case. Timothy Dees of Crevcoeur, Missouri, went missing after traveling with his friend Caleb Nanny, who also went by Caleb Kelly online, to Caleb's tiny home in the back of his mother's house in Fredericktown, Missouri, about an hour and a half south of Crevcoeur on February 27, 2022. Caleb was the only person Timothy knew in Fredericktown, so at 4:04 a.m. on February 28, when Timothy called 911, frantically telling dispatch he was being chased and threatened by his friend, could only be one person.
The Timothy Dees thing.
Yeah.
I was the one that took the call that night, so I show up. The call come in that he said that his friend was out in the yard threatening him.
When officers arrived, they were met by an agitated and uncooperative relative of Caleb's, a cousin who claimed that he had just arrived to get some assistance with a flat tire and saw Timmy leave the residence quickly, but claimed to not know why. He was arrested for an unrelated warrant. Officers did not make contact with Timothy, nor did they try. They, believing the agitated cousin of Caleb's was the reason for the call, they left without attempting to contact Timothy or call him on his phone. Timothy's remains would be found 5 months later in a tree line less than 200 yards from where Timothy made his frantic 911 call, which so happened to be right outside of Caleb's home. Later on in the morning of February 28th, officers would arrive back at Caleb's, and he would be arrested for a gas drive-off he and Timothy had done the night before. Caleb would stay in jail for 40 days for the drive-off and an unrelated warrant. While in jail, Caleb made statements to law enforcement, his family, and Barbara Hall, who is Timothy's mother. Caleb claimed to not know where Timothy was and would help find him when he would be released.
See if any word about Timmy. Worried about him. I'm hoping everything's okay. Just when you get this, just so you know, that I talked to a private investigator. I told him everything I knew, everything that I think he'd be, where he'd be. When I get out, I'm going to look as hard as I can to find him. I'm worried, Barb. I love you. I love him. I don't want you to think that I do anything to hurt him.
Recently, the family of Timothy have been able to gain access into Timothy's Facebook. Here are the messages between Caleb and Timothy just before Timothy is never seen again. The last message the morning Timothy goes missing is a threat by Caleb to Timothy. Caleb and Timothy's main form of contact was Facebook Messenger, and yet after Caleb's release, he never messages Timothy again. Not even a "where are you? We're looking for you. Are you okay?" Interesting enough, the last time of the last message from Caleb threatening Timothy happened 40 minutes before Timothy's debit card would be used at an ATM machine. Just after 9 a.m. on the morning of February 28, 2022. Timothy's debit card, though, was located with his remains in his pants. His pants did appear to have been pulled down. Did Timothy make this withdrawal? Caleb would tell law enforcement that Timothy got high and paranoid and left out of nowhere that night. He stated he had called him several times that morning, and the only time that he did answer, around 4 a.m., he stated that Timothy sounded like he was running and stated someone was chasing him. Another time, Caleb tells law enforcement earlier he had left to visit a friend and left Timothy at his tiny home while he was gone. He stated when he returned, he had discovered Timothy had taken pictures of Caleb's stuff and sent Snapchats to people trying to sell Caleb's belongings. I wonder how he knew Timothy had done that on his phone, a phone that would never be found. You may say, well, check the footage from the ATM machine. Well, here's where the oddities with law enforcement begin. The owner of the gas station indicated they turned over all the footage to the police chief. However, when a request for it was made by Barbara, she was informed it was struck by lightning. That wasn't the only evidence lost to multiple lightning strikes. Body cam footage from the same police chief and an interaction with Barbara was also struck and lost by lightning. And police refused to release the 911 call, claiming it too was struck in another lightning strike. As for Caleb's alibi, when the ATM withdrawal had occurred, he stated he was already arrested for the gas drive-off at 9 a.m. Police reports also indicate that Caleb had been arrested at 9 a.m., but what neither law enforcement or Caleb accounted for is a screenshot of text message between Caleb and his friend indicating at 10 a.m. that Caleb needed $10 so he doesn't go to jail. Kind of interesting that he would have his phone if he was already incarcerated, and indicating that he needed the money now so that he would not go to jail, indicating that maybe perhaps that interaction with law enforcement that resulted in his arrest happened after 10 a.m. when he was asking for the money so that he would not go to jail for the gas drive-off. Also, in the text chain between Caleb and his friend, Caleb sounds very upset at Timothy threatening harm. But why would the police cover up for Caleb Nanny? Perhaps it's more of what an investigation into the area may uncover. Sounds like someone up high doesn't want anyone looking into the area. Oddly, Timothy's remains were found in a tree line inside the property of a sitting judge at the time. Police are refusing to investigate. I recommend checking out my interview with Barbara Hall after this police interview. It's tagged in the corner here and also at the end of the video. Let me know in the comment section what you think about the statements made by Caleb. Do you think he's being honest? Do you think he's telling the truth? Like, comment, and subscribe. All right. So that's the little bit of an intro that I had made before. Now, I want to add some things to it because there's some things that we have found out since. So the ATM at 9 a.m., the police officer that would be the police chief that went and picked up that evidence, that was not his jurisdiction. I've never seen a situation where an officer goes out of their jurisdiction to go pick up evidence on an active investigation for somebody else. It's wild. And, you know, I need you guys to kind of understand how this place has been and who they are and how they've treated Miss Hall. Let me pull up some things real quick. So I'm going to pull up an audio real fast. Miss Hall had recorded conversations that she had with law enforcement. Now, Miss Hall is a sweet, sweet lady. She's just trying to find justice for her son. And this is how law enforcement treat her. This first one, I believe, let me pull it up real quick. Yeah. It is.
Thoroughly investigated that case.
This is going to be Scott Stanton for Highway Patrol. Jeff Johnson is the investigator, and he's going to be the second person that we're going to listen to. And this is how law enforcement treats the victim family members.
Put many hours into that case. They looked into every possible option that was there. And at the conclusion of this investigation, it is, and I totally agree with them, it is one.
Well, let me fast forward to where it starts getting good. 7:33. So there was a question about the phone, which let me pull up an image really fast so that this makes more sense. So Timothy goes missing February 28th. His phone activity ceases then on February 28th as well. However, let me pull up something for you guys. I had it all set up, but it all deleted. Just give me 1 second. I was having some issues with my computer. Here it is. It's just going to download, so it's going to take a second. Bear with me. While that's doing that, move this over here. Wait for it to download, and let me play this for you guys. Here. this is so Barbara's going to be asking about a cell phone. So Timothy goes missing on February 28th. He has his phone with him. And when his body is found, his phone is not with him anymore. Now, there are threats from his friend Caleb to Timothy all the way till 8 a.m. Now, the interesting thing about that is that Caleb never messages Timothy again. And that was their main means of contact, was through Messenger. There was a lot of messages there between the two. And so at a certain point, Caleb does become a suspect. And they question Caleb in a manner that you would believe he is the suspect of this. And even after that, Caleb does not try to contact Timmy. You know, if even if you thought that Timmy ran away, because that's what he thinks. He thinks that Timmy found some documents, was going to change his identity and run away, move out of the state lines, whatever the case may be. That's what his claim is. It's actually a very ridiculous claim, and I can't believe the incompetent law enforcement officers investigating this case can't see it. There's so much evidence here pointing in one direction, but these idiots just, for whatever reason, can't see in front of them. In fact, well, you'll hear them for yourself. But let me see if my document downloaded. Not yet. It's still waiting. So bear with me. Let me play this while I look it up.
The court issues a warrant. We as the police have to honor that warrant. We can't decide what warrants to honor and what warrants not to honor. We have to honor a warrant.
Jeff Johnson, the FBI told me that Jeff Johnson called over there and called it off because the only reason why they had it was because they were looking for his body and they found the body. And I said, well, you didn't find the phone. I said, I thought that was the phone. So then I was told that the phone went down the creek. I've gotten 3 different stories for him, is why I have so many questions.
So here's the phone activity, and here's the weird thing about the phone, guys. So this is Barbara's text chain with Timmy. This is on February 27th. Just checking to see if you're okay. May 1st, pray you are safe, Timmy. Hope you know I'm always here for you. March 5th. This is a week after. Are you okay? You guys see that? You guys see what it says right there? Somebody read this text message. And so this is just Barbara asking about the phone.
Sir, I'm not trying to be difficult or rude or anything.
Well, Miss Hall, I'll be honest with you. You've been very difficult with Sergeant Johnson over this investigation. He has expressed that to me. My boss is aware. My boss above him is aware. And again, we understand the heartbreak that you have, but that doesn't allow someone just to continue to question every step of the investigation with these guys who did an outstanding job. Now, as in any investigation, we don't have the answer for everything. I mean, there's some things we can't answer. We just don't. Some things may sound weird. Some things may sound shady. And maybe they do to you, but we can't answer every single question that comes about in an investigation because we weren't there to witness it or know.
Oh, so Jeff Johnson's told you that I'm rude to him? I guess he hasn't told you about him screaming at me and how rude he has been to me. Jeff Johnson got mad at me because I asked questions about this case. I mean, the first I was told he froze to death.
He didn't get mad at you for asking questions about the case. It's your response. It's your response and the way you've treated him and the things that you've done. Now, regardless of that, we'll answer the questions that you have, but we're not going to continue to keep answering the same questions over and over and over again. Again, it was a tragic event, and it's not a homicide, and there's some things we just can't answer. We just don't know the answers to them.
Well, maybe do your damn job, you piece of crap. All right, let's look at the next one. Do you want to talk about what Jeff Johnson and how he treated? I guess Ms. Hall was screaming at him. Let's look at that recording. This is Jeff Johnson.
He's being mailed to the Missouri State Highway Patrol. Attention custodian of records.
You know what? I think I might have that. Let me see. I might have sent that letter.
Barbara's yelling at him clearly.
Could you hold on for a minute and I will?
Sure.
tell you who I sent them letters to. That's Jeff City, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Clearly, Barbara here is unruly. She's being a menace right now. She's yelling and screaming.
And is that going to give me everything, Jeff?
You'll have to speak with them, Barb. I don't, to be honest with you, I don't know what they send. I do know that it requires something different if you don't want a redacted version. I can't speak intelligently about what they redact or how they do that. That would be a question for them.
Okay.
And I have a phone number if you have a question for them.
Okay. I think I got it here. Am I going to get the recording of Timmy, or do I have to ask them at the gas station?
Oh, by the way, and we have I have a document here that specifies that law enforcement recovered a video and burned it onto a disc and put it in evidence of the gas station that they're about to talk about. There's a sunshine law there. Barb has done several, and they refuse to give her, even through the sunshine law, which is like a FOIA, that information. But as you guys can hear so far, Barb sounds like she's screaming. Let's see what Jeff Johnson, let's see how Highway Patrolman Jeff Johnson behaves himself.
That would be a question for them.
Is that P.O. Box 1408?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, well then I have that. Can I get that phone number from you though?
Sure, it's 573-526-6146.
6146. And is there anybody I specifically need to talk to, or?
I don't know exactly who handles the request. The actual custodian of records is Lieutenant Gerard Callahan. I'm sure he won't answer the phone, though.
Yeah, probably have a secretary.
I'm sure.
While I have you on the phone, is there any way I can ask you why Timmy's phone records from that?
Barb, I'm just going to tell you, every time I talk to you, my words get twisted and turned, so I'm not going to talk to you, okay? I'll provide you any information that I can as far as what I have to provide you and what's going on. But every time that happens, I end up taking a back seat and being made to look foolish, and I'm just not in the mood to engage in a conversation concerning anything any further, okay?
Well, Mr. Johnson, you're putting yourself in the damn backseat and making yourself look like a damn fool over here telling somebody who's asking questions about the death of their missing loved one, their child. I'm sure if you were in the damn shoes, you'd be asking freaking questions yourself. To say, I'm not going to answer your questions, that's your damn job, dude. If you can't handle being a cop, you shouldn't be one. And based on everything that I've seen, you should take that damn badge off because you're a disgrace to it. Look at this. Who talks to a victim's family member this way?
Yeah, probably have a secretary.
I'm sure.
While I have you on the phone, is there any way I can ask you why Timmy's phone records from that?
Barb, I'm just going to tell you, every time I talk to you, my words get twisted and turned, so I'm not going to talk to you, okay? I'll provide you any information that I can as far as what I have to provide you and what's going on. But every time that happens, I end up taking a back seat and being made to look foolish, and I'm just not in the mood to engage in a conversation concerning anything any further, okay?
Well, I just don't understand why Timmy's Facebook page hasn't been checked into.
We've explained this to you until I'm blue in the face. And I don't mean to be rude. I don't want to be curt to you. I'm going to be as professional as I can when I tell you I'm not taking any other any other phone calls from you. You can speak to my supervisor. You can speak to his supervisor or his supervisor.
Well, then how do I speak to the supervisor?
You call up the Troop E&S, speak to Master Sergeant Scott Stolte.
Scott.
S-T. Yeah, are you ready?
Yep.
S-T-O-L-T-I-N-G. S-T-O.
This idiot spelled his own damn boss's name wrong, but yet he's afraid somebody's going to make him look foolish. You're doing that all on your own, you idiot.
S-T-O-E-L-T-I-N-G. I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I didn't hear, Miss Barb's being anywhere horrible with anybody. And the lack of respect, the damn near disrespect is what it is, treating a victim family member that way. I can't believe it. I couldn't believe it when I heard about it. In fact, when I first heard about this case and Barb was telling me about it, I was like, man, this doesn't make any sense. None of this makes any sense. I was like, there's got to be a reasonable explanation for it. And the more I look into it, the more I think that somebody here is afraid of an investigation into some of the players here, into some of the people that are involved. And what I mean by that is somebody having an affair? Is somebody supplying drugs? Is somebody doing something with one of these persons and they're trying to put everything they can and throw this case under the rug so that way that investigation doesn't come forth, so their own actions don't come out? Think of, the Long Island serial killer. The police chief in that situation back in the day, that case could have been solved much earlier, but he was involved with prostitutes. And he was stonewalling the investigation because he was afraid that it was going to lead into his out of marriage and just, this deviancies and his acts. Is somebody doing something here similar? I've heard some rumors about, Bobby Boone. I don't know if I want to say her name completely, but one of the persons that is involved in this case and a potential relationship with an officer who is married, who may have been the person that got the damn evidence from the ATM. It is ridiculous. It is ridiculous, the type of stuff that has occurred in this town. And I was just out there at the protest, and I was out there, and there was at least 20 people that came up to us throughout the entire process. And not one person had a good thing to say about the department there in Fredericktown or the highway patrol that investigate the crimes in that area. Not one person. In fact, it was quite the opposite. It was numerous case after case after case with people that are involving the Bobby lady I was mentioning. Her name comes up in multiple mysterious murders. There was one person, Devontae, in the area, goes to a party and decides to commit suicide in the attic. Just makes no sense. The same scenario. Oh, he got paranoid. He got high and left on his own accord, went upstairs, and guess what? He didn't take a gun with him. The person that gave him the gun is the only person that fled the scene. Go figure. Plus, blood spatter evidence indicate that the manner in which these people are saying he committed suicide and how he shot himself don't make sense. And yet you have law enforcement officers in that area who are refusing to investigate that crime as well. It is, I believe, 7 unsolved murders in that area that have been chalked up to people that are claimed to have gone paranoid and gone on their own accord. Timothy Dees' remains were found with his pants rolled down against the flow of the current of the water that he was found in, which had a flow of about 2 inches at best. 2 inches at best. And yet that somehow pulled his pants down against its own flow. It didn't even make any sense what they're saying. The phone is missing. The phone has been missing since February 28th. There was activity after Caleb stops trying to reach out to him. There was activity on his device, or on Timothy's bank statement. Somebody tried to access money. Now, Caleb, in multiple interviews, says he doesn't know how much money Timothy had. We know based on receipts that he pulled out $160. And there is an interview, and you guys can find a lot of this on my Spotify. If you go to Spotify, Drunk Turkey Spotify, go check it out. check up you can type in Timothy Dees, and you'll see those a podcast that I did on the case earlier on. Because somebody, I'm looking at you, Fredericktown police. Somebody had the ones that I put on here removed, but they didn't catch the ones that I had on Spotify, and so those are still up and going. And please hit the like button and subscribe and ring the notification bell, guys, because I'm going to go deep and hard into this case because there is so much more that we know about. And if these guys were concerned about my little YouTube channel, I was out there for a freaking documentary, brother, that's going to be aired out on a huge network. So all of y'all's indiscretion, all of y'all's corruption and incompetence is about to come to light very soon. So if you guys are worried and trying to get YouTube videos and podcasts taken down about Timothy's case, you guys are in for a rude awakening fairly soon. And I can't wait for it. I can't, because this is, in my opinion, just unjust. I mean, you have this person saying, oh, well, he killed himself by accident on February 28th. His phone washed down the creek that only flows about 2 inches that you can't find the phone. And somehow a week after his passing or his disappearance, somebody reads a text message. It is ridiculous. It is insane. And then, I mean, you have situations like this where law enforcement, and I'll show you this image. And you guys tell me, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm just looking at things the wrong way. But let me show you this. Let's look at this. So Caleb says that in his interviews, he goes and says that he went to a friend's house after midnight to get his hair braided, and he left Timothy Dees at his house. In fact, let me pull up something real quick. Is that it? Nope. Is that it now? Where do I have it? I have it somewhere here. I hope I do. No, that's not it. I may have closed it. No, I think I did close it. Or is it down? Let me find it real quick. Here it is. I do have it. Yeah. Here he is. So let's scroll down. This is at let me find it. So this is the evidence that Barbara was able to get. I want to get to the pictures of Caleb and I'd say here they are. You can see the sun setting in the background. So this is about 6 p.m. And I believe this is at midnight. Check out his hair on Caleb's head. Isn't it not already braided? But yet his story is around 2 o'clock. He went to get his hair braided. But his is his arrest. I don't know what much more they did differently because the braid looks exactly the same. Now, supposedly what had occurred was that, according to Caleb, they went to this gas station. Now, Caleb tells Timmy, this is my favorite gas station. Please don't do any gas drive-offs. Please go in there and pay, which sounds stupid, to be honest with you, that you're going into this description of, I'm telling you this, and then that's what happens. That's complete nonsense. It's complete crap. And so he throws Timothy under the bus for everything. He says that he's responsible for the gas drive-off. They did a gas drive-off. They go to his house. They find out that that happens around midnight. About supposedly at 8 a.m, they show up to Caleb's house to arrest him or talk to him about the gas drive-off. Caleb is trying to, get money for the gas drive-off, but it doesn't matter because he has a warrant for an unrelated crime, and he gets arrested. Here's the thing. You have sheriff's office, police officer. Look at this vehicle here. That does not appear to be marked. I don't see any lights. This is, there's no lights on the top, no lights on the inside. You have another unmarked vehicle in the back here. You also have two different agencies. You have four different persons here. One person taking a picture of said person. Now, I believe the person taking the picture is now the police chief. The same one, I think, that went and got the evidence from the ATM machine. Go figure, right? Who is outside of his jurisdiction. We all have to put that into context here. The guy that picks up evidence outside of his jurisdiction, taking a picture of a guy who's getting arrested for a warrant. Now, I used to be a police officer. I have no idea why they would take this picture. No idea why they would do any of those things. Maybe perhaps they're going to utilize him as a criminal informant. But I thought I found something weird, or I saw something weird. Let me show you this. One, they also sent the data that comes with it. Now, their police record says he was arrested at 8:30 or 8:40, somewhere around there. But this arrest didn't happen till May 28th or February 28th at 10:05 a.m. Why are they lying about what time they arrested him and putting it in court documents? And it's not just that. You have him sending text messages with a friend of him and asking for money at 10 a.m. also saying, send me the $10 or I'm going to jail. Now, the interesting thing I found about this is the night, February 28th, it says, do you still need that whistle? That's what it says up here. Now, I've looked up what a whistle is, and a whistle is it's a gun. And Caleb goes, no, effing crazy stuff happened. Everything okay? Not really. That mother effer got sketched out, stole some of my shit and ran off like a bitch. I'm pissed. This person goes, want to beat him up, kind of do, but at this point in time, I have no clue where he's at. I found it weird for him to say, at this point in time, is a weird phrase. Sounds almost like they're trying to fabricate that they don't know where he's at. That's kind of the tone I got. And then he goes on at 8:37 when I straight up see him, I'm effing him up. Send me the $10 or I'm going to jail. And then he even sends another text message at 10:19, which is interesting because he's already in cuffs before that. You see that? 10:05 a.m. he's in cuffs. 10:19 he's texting still. Why does he have his phone? You guys tell me. Why was he asking for a weapon, for a gun? You still need that whistle. Now, let me see if I sent this to myself yet, because I want to point out a couple of things too. There's one more really big thing that I noticed, and I just want to make sure I didn't, not yet. Let me do it now. Give me 1 second. Bear with me. You guys are going to get a trip out of this. Myself and Steve, we went out to that area. We did some things for the documentary in the river. I guess I can tell you guys. I don't think it's going to make much of a difference. We went and did some checking on with a metal detector. We're trying to see if maybe we can find the phone. Maybe we can find something. But I want to show you something, a result of it that I picked up when I was sitting in the vehicle. There you go. Couldn't find it. Now I did. Give me 1 second. You guys are going to love this one. Let me pull up. Where is it at? Bear with me, guys. I thought I had it open already, but I didn't. Let's see. You guys are really going to like this. But I was in the river, in the little creek where Timothy's body was found. We were out there for 2 different days. And let me show you what happened. Almost got it up. And again, guys, I have a lot of stuff about this case. And so we're going to be covering this. There's no way I can cover everything all in once. I want to be able to show you guys, conversations, because I got jailhouse conversations. I got a lot of video and things of that nature, and some contradicting things. I even have the police documents, or not the police documents, the police interrogation video and audio that we're going to be going over. But I was walking out there. I was walking out there in the mud, and this is before I went into the creek. This is my shoe. This is my foot. Nobody getting any weird ideas about looking at my feet. But there's some reddish tint here to the bottom of my shoe, and there's also some reddish mud, and this is going to be on the inside of my right leg. And then this day, I actually went into the water. Now I'm wearing some tan pants, and so it's kind of hard to tell. But there's more. You can see right here, there's a significantly more red mud. If I was wearing blue jeans, this would be more red, and there's some red here. Let me show you this. What did I do? Where did it go? Give me a second. I have it here somewhere. Did it disappear on me? Bear with me, guys. I have to find the document again. Where was it at? Timothy Dees. I don't know why it keeps disappearing on me. There it goes. Oh, it's because it's on the internet. It's not on Chrome. All right, so here it is. Look at Caleb's shoe. You see the gray darkness here? Gray darkness. That looks like a stain from being out in the pavement. All right. You have pavement stains because they're gray. Check out his shoes. Check out the brown stain right here on the inside of his pant leg. That's different. This is at 10 o'clock, and this is at midnight. What do you guys think about that? What do y'all think about the red shoes? Now, again, of course, this could be clay from any part of his home, but I don't see it here. And this is where Timothy's body would be found, guys. Straight over here. I've got some clear images and stuff like that we were looking at. There's like mud that you can see like on the back here. It's just a little bit grainy on this image here. But there's like, you can see where there's like sling mud back here on the back heel of his shoe. Timothy was found in a creek, small creek. And there's a lot of red clay soil where Timothy was found. Anna, you guys tell me, what do you guys think about the shoes? And because these are darker, these you can see the concrete stain right here, or the pavement stain, the gray, it doesn't even exist here anymore. Why? Is it because his foot went in the water a little bit? You know, did that wash off a little bit of that and leave the clay on the bottom? And there's a lot of things like this, guys. And there's some things that I wish I could tell you guys that I can't. You know, that's going to come out because there's a lot more information after I went down there and looked around and things of that nature and talked to some people from that city. We've got me and Steve from True Crime Web. I'm probably going to have him on and explain some of the evidence and some of the things as well, because you want to talk about the corruption here. I'm not going to show it, but Timothy, when he was found, he was skeletal, right? They sent pictures to Barb of them finding and taking his bones out. He's missing a tooth. And then by the time he gets to the coroner's office, the tooth is back in. It's weird, right? And there's no explanation. There's no documents or anything that says that they put the tooth in. And so, you know, you may ask, why is that relevant? It's relevant because if Timothy's tooth was knocked out, that is evidence and indication of a disturbance and altercation, and that this is most likely homicide. They put the tooth back in so that they can say that there's no evidence of that. So that way it doesn't get investigated this way. Right? Here's the other weird thing. So they gave Barbara, like, she went to go see the bones, right? And the skeletal remains. And she saw this at the coroner's office, at the funeral home. And she took pictures of Timothy's remains. Timothy's remains were in a bag full of dirt. But when she got the coroner's report, which was dated before she took the pictures of the bones were cleaned. How do you explain that? That they have a picture of the bones cleaned. You can see them clean as day. They're clean on the board. And it's dated. I'm not going to pull it up. I'm not going to show you the date, but it's dated one date. Barbara goes to the funeral home after that supposed date, and the bones are still in the bag that they recovered them from the ground, and they're full of dirt, not cleaned like they were supposedly days earlier. You know what I think happened? I think they realized that they didn't do the autopsy or didn't do anything, and they went and they did the cleaning of the bones, and they took the pictures and they did everything and just changed the date. And that's bull crap. This whole thing is just bull crap. And you have these investigators who are refusing to investigate. You have police officers obtaining evidence that is out of their jurisdiction that could have solved a lot of this problem. Like, who the hell was there at 9 a.m., at the ATM? And then you have these images, and this is how bad they are. You have these images here, right? Yeah, this is at 12 o'clock. This is Caleb. That's Timothy. You have the images at 6 p.m. Let's go back here. Here it is, 6 p.m. because there's a sunset. They were there twice, and that is in the documents, or in the documents and in the and what they report. And then they have here, you see the light? That's Trevor. That is the one that got arrested at 4 o'clock when he showed up. and was supposedly with a flat tire that was in that intro video that I talked about. Well, he gets bonded out about 10:50 and 11:15. He's back at this C barn at 11 o'clock. Him and his, I think, grandmother, who's also Caleb's grandmother, go in there and they pay off the gas drive off of $20 that they paid, right? But here's the weird thing is, we have been asking, or Barb has been asking, hey, Timothy's card was used at 9 o'clock. Can we get the footage from 9 o'clock? They say, oh, the ATM was struck by lightning. Well, they freaking clearly got footage from 12, 6 p.m., and 11 a.m. the next day, but they refused to give this footage too of 9 o'clock to see who comes in and uses the damn ATM. This is how corrupt this damn police department is. They're refusing to give even the footage from the gas station for 9 o'clock in the morning that would have shown who came in. It's ridiculous. This is 11 a.m. right here. This guy right here, Michael Busking, he was there that night. It was Caleb, Michael Busking, Timothy, and Trevor Holland together. This guy told law enforcement, I believe he had failed a lie detector test, said he wasn't going to go down for anybody's murder, and said that when Timothy was found, he would be found without his clothes. Shortly after they had that talk with him, Timothy's body was found, and they said they were going to find Timothy with his clothes down. And sure enough, Timothy's found with his clothes down, and yet they don't investigate any of this. That is wild to me. That is wild. That is just wild. And then you have this story here. Like, you have so many different stories. I'm going to try to pull up one real quick. This is Trevor.
Hey, how's it going? Pretty good.
So he says at one point, check this out. So 7:15.
But he was trying to say that he was asked him to take him to Ironton.
So this is where, so Caleb gets arrested, right, at 8 a.m. Trevor gets arrested about 5 a.m. And according to police documents, it's at 8. It's really at 10. But Caleb gets arrested at 10 a.m. Trevor had gotten arrested at 5. They intersect paths. And, you know, he's getting out. Trevor's getting out when Caleb's getting processed in. Now, both of them had warrants. The reason why, and this is the other one too, this is the kicker, right? So police show up because Timothy called 911 saying his friend had threatened him. They come across this guy, Trevor Holland, who is being aggressive with law enforcement. They run him and come to find out he has a warrant, so they pick him up. Caleb is nowhere to be found, although he supposedly claims he was there and he was looking for him. He's not there, because if they ran him, they would have ran him and they would have found out that they had warrants for him as well. In fact, Trevor also says that he wasn't there, he wasn't outside, and that's why they didn't arrest Caleb that morning. But here's the thing. Caleb, he was new to this house. He just started moving in. This was Timothy's first time he was there. According to Caleb, Timothy ran from the house, took off running. He was on the phone with him for 4 minutes, and he could hear him running away from the house. My question is how did law enforcement know to go to that house? Right? Because if Timothy calls, this is Timothy's first time there in a place he's never been. It's a place that's new to Caleb. Caleb drove him around. Caleb brought him there. Does he know the address? And if he doesn't, he must have been on the phone long enough in that location for police to triangulate where the call came from to go to that address. They didn't go to the woods. They didn't go down the block. They went to Caleb's house. That means that the call of that Caleb was threatening him happened at Caleb's house, not while Timothy was running away. And he was there on the phone long enough for law enforcement to triangulate where he was so that they could go out there. Completely contradicting what Trevor and Caleb and everybody is saying, that he took off running, paranoid, on his own, and then called 911 when he was out there in the middle of nowhere. Because they would have gone to that location, not to Caleb's house. But they went to Caleb's house. Got to ask yourself why. But here's the intersection. Caleb gets arrested the next morning, says that Timothy ran off. However, it's interesting what Trevor says that Caleb tells him about what happened to Timmy.
Okay. They just left there. They're going to flip around. Okay. So, all right. That was all. I just wanted to have you do that while you were over there.
So I got a question.
Yep.
How did Caleb go to jail? Like, did he get arrested where?
I'm going to jump off here. We're still there.
So the person that just said, I have a question, where did Caleb get arrested? That is Trevor.
That's what he was at that point. It was just shortly after you.
See,
Was he not there whenever you?
Yeah, he came in, but as I was leaving, getting bonded out, Caleb told me, which is not meant anyway. Caleb told me that he was taken because I was about to. Well, okay, I thought somebody, basically snitched on me and he was trying to get me in trouble because he thought I had something on me, and that's what I thought the whole thing was about. But I got there and Caleb said that he asked him to take him to Ironton. Caleb was driving. Timmy asked Caleb to drive him to Ironton. Caleb said he had got pulled over halfway to Ironton and he went to jail. He don't know where Timmy's at. That's exactly what Caleb told me as he went to jail. Swear to God.
And he says it again, but basically what he's saying is, and in fact, they'll ask him, is like, so he's saying that Timothy went back, and he said, yeah, Timothy went back, asked Caleb for a ride. Caleb gave him a ride to Ironton, and on the way there, Caleb got pulled over and Timmy ran. And that's what he says a little bit later, that Timmy ran out of the car and took off. Multiple times throughout the interviews, Caleb he says that Timothy found some driver's license and papers social security number out of it's the stupidest story. I can't believe law enforcement believe it. I'll see if I can find the timestamp and where I have it. But according to Caleb, him and Timmy were walking around his grandma's house and they came across a trash can. Timmy kicked the trash can, and an ID, social security number, birth certificate, and everything that you would need to steal somebody's identification fell out of said trash can. It was for a woman, and Timmy had spoken now about changing his identity and leaving the state now as a woman. I can't believe law enforcement, bought that, but he also tells a story about how this isn't the first time that Timmy went to the bathroom, because that's his story, that Timmy said he was going to go to the bathroom and took off running, saying people were chasing him, that he's taking him to stores, and Timmy said, hey, I got to go to the bathroom, and then disappeared, where he's also run off. He's giving all these excuses saying that, this is normal behavior, blah, blah, blah. Huge red flags. And these idiot cops are too busy sucking on their thumbs to realize it. It's so ridiculous. But I bring this up because you have Trevor saying that Caleb told him that Timmy jumped out of his car at one point and ran away. Okay, so let's go back to, is it here? Yep. I want to show you guys something. So Bobby Boone is the lady who, let me show you this. I'll show you who she is. She's the one that had the text messages where she said, do you still need that whistle? And do you need help finding Tim, whatever, beat him up? That's who Bobby Boone is, right? Let's see. Let me scroll up to the images, because she's here at the gas station that night. on, I think, 2 occasions. Maybe just one. See, that's her right here. This is the Bobby Boone lady. Now, she's associated and she knows Timmy and Caleb. And that's one of her friends. Here's Caleb. There's Timmy. Okay. And this is them interacting, Bobby Boone with Caleb at 6:30. This is sunset outside of Caleb's vehicle. And so they know each other. This is the person that asked Caleb about the whistle, about the gun. And Caleb told the story to his cousin that Timmy jumped out. Let me show you something. I hope I have it still. I think I have it highlighted in green. If I didn't. Okay. Bear with me. I'm going to find it. Basically what it says is, there it is. Oh no, that was something different. Man, I hope I didn't delete it. This one was crazy because here Caleb says that Timothy was acting different and was on his phone a lot. In a different place, he says that that Timothy wasn't on his phone that much. So he contradicts himself quite a bit. But basically, what was said here, and I guess I didn't. Oh, here it is. All right. So on March 17th, I made contact with Laurel, manager of Sea Barn, to inquire about getting a clear copy of Timothy's signed receipt. Appeared faded and unreadable. And Laurel stated that recent regular customer identified as Bobby Boone, that's the lady that we were talking about with the whistle and the brown jacket, came into the gas station and told her that her friend, Ellen, had given Timothy a ride to either Marble Hill or Millersville, but that Timothy jumped out of the vehicle at some point. Laurel stated that that was the only information that she remembered, but stated both Bobby and Ellie were at the gas station with Timothy and Caleb on 2/27/2022. So I found it interesting that both these people are giving this information that Timothy jumped out of a vehicle. It almost sounds to me as if these guys were trying to come up with a story to explain Timothy's disappearance, and they didn't get the story down right together, or maybe perhaps at certain points, one agreed that Caleb had found him and given him a ride and he had left. And then maybe at another point, they agreed that Bobby Boone would say that she found him and gave him a ride. And then in the end, they changed their story completely. But they had given a similar story about Timothy jumping out of a vehicle and running away. Do you guys think that that's very coincidental? You know what I'm saying? I don't know about this one. It's crazy. I mean, there's so much stuff in here that contradicts things that you're like, man, are the cops involved in here that stupid? You know, you would, like, for instance, Deputy Kennedy, he arrived at the scene for a guy who stated that his friend was threatening him. Right? Now let's take into consideration who Timothy is. Timothy, he was into some stuff. He was doing drugs. He was into some things, right? His brother had just passed away, so he was kind of grieving from that as well. But for Timothy to call 911 must have been a great emergency. You know, especially if you know what he was doing that night with Caleb and throughout the night. When you're, doing an illegal activity, you're not necessarily calling the cops, right? But he did. And even if law enforcement didn't know that, right, at the time, somebody called 911 claiming somebody was threatening him. This officer never tried to make contact with Timmy. He got there, he made contact with Trevor, he had a warrant, and he arrested him and took him away. They never called Timmy back. They never did a welfare check on Timmy. They never sent an officer back out there to make contact with him. They never searched for him. None of those things happened. is insane. Where can we see Caleb's entire interrogation video? I do have majority of them on my Spotify. I'll see if I can link that. Let me see. Let me pull this down. If you were to search, let's see, Timmy Dees, Drunk Turkey, Spotify, you'll see a bunch of stuff that's on there. Let me see if this works here. No. That's somebody else. You might have to go and search through here, but I do have them there. What I'll do is I'll post them up, the links into the description, because it was some time ago. It was probably about a year ago when I did this on the Timothy Dees case, and so I have several videos up on Spotify right now. And it's not like on Spotify where I can do like different playlists where it's easy. Oh, you know what? I think you can. I'm going to figure out how to make a playlist there and put them together. Let's see, because it was quite a while ago that I did the Timothy Dees case. But I have them. I'm going to go through and put them all together. And this isn't going to be the last. This is just the first. I wanted to give everybody some awareness, let everybody know about the case, so that way it can build some traction, so that we can get some justice. Because at the end of the day, right now, what I think we're going to have to do is we're going to have to bring awareness to this case, so that way law enforcement do something. That way another law enforcement agency sees this and says, hey, there's more to this, and there needs to be some justice done. And that's what we're hoping to do, is just to bring enough awareness and a public pressure that an investigation is done. Let's see, man, it's been some time, guys, since I covered Timothy Dees' case, but it is on here. You just might have to scroll down about a year or two, to be honest with you. But I answer some of your questions. Put a couple of stars, so that way I know you're talking with me, and I'll answer your questions now. We have Ella coming with 80 joules, coming in with saying lock it. And then we have, I already read that one. Then we have Hazel Phillips coming in as the newest member. Thank you so much. And stay hydrated. Deborah comes in with 550 joules. Put in a couple of stars. I'll answer your questions about the case. And if you have any questions, I know the case pretty well. And so put your questions, and then we can go forward from there. Let's see. I think it was around the time that I started talking about the Jack and Lily case, I think, is when I actually may have been around that time. Let's see. Justice. And I know Barbara's in here. Thank you, Barbara, for being here. Barbara is Timothy's mom. Thank you so much for being here. And what I'm going to actually, if you're willing to, Barb, I'll have you back on the channel, because we did a show together, and you can walk us through some of the issues that you've had out there in Fredericktown. They aren't even smart enough to hide their corruption. I think they all need to be out of law enforcement. I 100% agree. I 100% agree. Messed up from the start, so covered up going forward. That's what it feels like. It feels like that. And it feels like somebody's doing something. I've heard rumors. Here it is. I found it. So it was police interrogation, lies surface. Did Timothy Dees' friends get away with murder? Get away with it. Fredericksburg. October 13, 2025 was the last one. It's a 2-hour episode. Let's see. So share, copy link. And I'll also put it in the description after the show, so that way you guys can see that one. I know I had a few more. It's just I had them spread out because there was a lot of things that were going on at the same time. Here's the other one: explosive evidence of foul play. That was September 18, 2025. And so I'll post these up in the links and in the comments so you guys can listen, and where I point out some of this information. But if not, what I'm going to do is I'm going to be pointing them out also, and we'll be going over it in the next couple of days. Just came in. Can you recap what you were talking about? Thank you. Oh, no problem. So we were talking about the Timothy Dees murder that occurred back in 2022. He went missing. His body was found 5 months later. Law enforcement refused to investigate it. There's significant evidence that shows that there was foul play involved. You have a cell phone that is missing that is showing that somebody read the messages week after the disappearance. You have 3 failed attempts at a ATM machine for money from this account, and the footage from that ATM machine, police aren't looking into. They've been extremely rude to the victims' family members, etc. It is insane, guys. It is insane. But yeah, put a couple of questions. If you have a couple of questions, put a couple of stars. Don't forget, guys, also I'm going to have Steve Gonsalves on the channel, probably not this upcoming week, but the week after. We already locked it in. We talked about what we were going to be discussing, and so he'll be on in the future. Is this a situation of who can be the worst police officer? It is insane. It is absolutely insane. You know, I don't have that recording, but the guy that was claiming that Barbara was rude and yelling and all these other things, after Timothy's body was found, and Barbara was like, you know, I suspect there's foul play here. Things aren't adding up. The guy literally tells her, don't you just want to believe that nothing bad happened to him? I'm like, what kind of crap is that? Something bad did happen to him. Now we want to know the truth, man. Justice needs to come in. You can't change that just because you want to believe. You can't just say, all right, I believe that he died of natural causes at the age of 20 something. Come on now, man. You can't be that bad at being a cop. He literally told a victim's family member, don't you just want to believe that nothing bad happened to him after they found his deceased remains? I mean, how insensitive, how stupid do you have to be? And I don't like calling law enforcement officers dumb or things of that nature, but I think that these guys were probably officers a lot longer than has been required to take an assessment test on your cognitivity ability or your cognitive ability on your intelligence. You know, at a certain point, not too long ago, tests were done to determine whether or not you were incompetent enough to become a police officer. And at this point, I feel that some of these officers in this case applied and became police officers before that was a requirement, because there's no way in hell the shit that they buy, and excuse my language, but I'm super pissed off at them. The things that they supposedly, Timothy Dees kicked the trash can outside your grandma's house and found social security card, driver's license, birth certificate, and everything you need so that you can change your identity and move somewhere else. By golly Willie G Willikers, there's the answer to our problem here. Man, how stupid do you got to be? Lay off the damn horse tranquilizers and freaking let somebody else with half a brain figure out what's going on, because you clearly can't. It's ridiculous. It is ridiculous. I mean, and I feel bad for Barb's, you know. She's a sweet lady, doesn't deserve this, you know, has had tragedy strike her. And instead of getting help and getting answers, you know, especially from those that are supposed to supply those things and be the persons who are supposed to help victims, she's getting treated like crap. You know, it's horrible. It's absolutely horrible. Yeah, it was a woman's ID. It was insane. And you heard her. You heard Barb. She was not screaming and yelling. Like, you have these guys picking on a little old lady saying, "Oh, we're not going to talk to you because you're too mean to us." Even if she was, dude, that's your damn job, bro. Like, one of the things is that in law enforcement, at least in Texas, maybe out there in Missouri, that you've got a weaker standard for police officers. But in Texas, you can't be offended by somebody because they call you names or they make fun of you or they make you look like a fool, even though you're doing a really damn good job of that yourself. You know, you can't get mad at those things. But again, maybe the bar for being a police officer there is at the level of, I don't even know at this point. But it's just ridiculous. It is ridiculous. It makes me think that the police department was covering up for someone. I agree. Now, I don't think that these police officers had a hand in Timothy's murder, but I think they're covering up for for something, whether that's some illegal activity of their own. You know, if this is a CI, right? If Caleb Nanny is a CI, which I think he is, I was listening to one of the, because I have them all here. Let's see. One of these interviews here, and they're talking about another bust. And that happened when Caleb was 15 years old. And they talk about the information that he gave. I was listening to that earlier. And I was like, wow, this may have been where it started, right? Now, if you have a CI, you know, how close to, you know, you got to get close to the edge when you have CIs about letting them get away with things. And then there are officers that go above and beyond that, right? And you do that for leverage, and you do that for information. So somebody gets busted, they get a speeding ticket. They tell the detective, hey, if you get this ticket waived off, I can tell you some information about this burglary or whatever. Those things happen, right? When it comes an issue is where, you know, the crimes become bigger, and then maybe there's some supplying. I've seen where, you know, some corrupted departments or officers have supplied their CIs with drugs and taken a kickback on the money that they make from the sales that they get. And the person also can operate without fear of them going to jail, and if they get caught or arrested, that they're not going to be impacted because they're going to talk, or they have an officer that's assisting them. That's what I feel that's going on here. I feel that there's something here, and law enforcement, at least somebody, I mean, it could be somebody high. I mean, the person that is currently the chief of police apparently in the area was the officer who went and took the evidence from the gas station, the ATM video. Crazy thing is that wasn't his jurisdiction for him to go do. And there's not really a paper trail behind it. And he says it got struck by lightning after he picked it up. Damn, sure does sound like an officer goes out of their way, into somebody else's jurisdiction to pick up evidence and destroy it. Why they would do that is beyond me. And I'm not saying that's exactly what they're doing. I'm not accusing anybody of anything. This is all my opinion and my thoughts, which are not an expression of anybody else or anything else other than that. And should be taken as solely my opinion, because I don't have all the information or all the evidence, but I can clearly see what's in front of me. It is insane. It is insane. Avery goes, tell me on ATM stop recording when they're built to keep recording up battery and high-tech surge protectors on the event of a lightning strike. I agree. What had occurred was this officer went out of his way into a different jurisdiction, got the surveillance, submitted it back to evidence, and supposedly at that point is when it got destroyed. Go figure. You know, one of the other things that was destroyed from the same police chief. So Timothy's body, his remains were found on a sitting judge's property. That judge's wife told Barbara that she's never going to find out what happened to her son, so stop looking. That statement was captured on the said police officer's body camera. And guess what happened to that footage? It too was struck by lightning. Oh my gosh. Just like the 911 call. And we have a video and audio of the officers arguing with Barbara, saying that lightning struck the 911 center and the 911 calls were gone. And what they were trying to say was that Timothy didn't call 911 saying anybody was threatening him. And then Barbara's like, well, how did law enforcement know to go out there? And the officers were like, well, you can't prove it. Well, then she goes out and speaks to the deputy who took the call, who said it did in fact happen. And then again, you also have the picture of Caleb getting arrested and their document saying that this happened at 8:05. So that way this guy has an alibi to the 913 ATM charges, right? And somebody tried to pull money out of Timothy's account at 913. So they give him an alibi saying he was arrested. But the idiots forgot that they have their data attached to the picture. And guess what time that picture was taken? You can't make it up, guys. You just cannot make this up. If this was a movie, I would think it was a badly scripted movie. I'd be like, man, there's no way there could be this much incompetency or corruption in a department and nobody sees it. No way. Yeah, no, I get it, S-dubs. Everything got struck by lightning in this case. It is insane. It is insane. And you know, I'm lost for words, for, you know, being honest. And like I said, we're going to go through all the documents and stuff. The dude has red mud all over his feet, the same that you would get in the creek. It's ridiculous. He claims that at, you know, between 12 and 3 a.m. or 2 a.m. that he goes out there to some girl's house to get his hair did and braided. Yeah, it's in the same braid that he had earlier that night. It never changes. This dude's lying through his teeth. And these idiot cops are thinking that they're just going to get away with covering it up for him. His hair's braided already. His shoes aren't red. His shoes are not red there. There is no red mud. There is the stain of pavement, of asphalt on his shoes. You have the gray color. You don't got red. You don't got brown. You have his hair already braided. It is insane. It's insane. But I'm going to be talking more about this case, guys. I'm not going to give up on the Timothy Dees case. I'm going to bring up a lot of stuff. You know, I put out a few hours already, but look, I got Caleb Nanny. This is the second interview. This one's the first one. I got another one, two, three, I think total of 5 interviews with Caleb Nanny. We have Trevor, which we already looked into. And then we also have the prison videos where Caleb tries to hook up his sister with all the inmates that he's in there with. It's disgusting. And then tries to get her to create a like an OnlyFans type page so that he can benefit off of it and get paid from it as well, and so that she can have money. And then in those conversations, he slips up and tells her that Timothy had $160 on him and that he could have easily gone and run away and changed his name and everything else with that money. You know, but he tells law enforcement officers before that police call that he has with his sister, Before that, he tells him, I don't know how much money Timothy had. After that call, I don't know how much Timothy had. I don't look at how much money he had. But he tells his sister, Timmy had $160. Go figure. Go figure. They also talked about robbing other people and then blaming what happened to Timmy on other people as well. And yet law enforcement just, he looked like he felt bad. That's literally what they put in their reports. He showed remorse. He said that he knew him since second grade, so he must not have done this. It is insane. It is insane. Oh, and Barbara reminds me of one last thing that I'm going to bring up. And the dogs hit on a storage unit that belonged to a police officer. That's the resource officer at the school. So I'm going to show you guys this real quick. Timmy called 911 in this area. This is where law enforcement show up. Dogs search the sheds here. It hits on a shed, and they give permission to search all the sheds. And they're about to go in, and they find out that the shed that it hit on, the cadaver dog, was a police officer, and they cease the search and don't search that shed. Timothy's body was found almost parallel into the wood area right here in the creek. Kayla was telling everybody that Timmy ran this direction, south, away from where his body was. Go figure. Well, it's going to be a documentary. It's going to be a documentary, and I think that this town is in for a rude awakening. The corruption and the incompetence is going to come to light. The officers that thought that other people are making them look foolish are going to realize it was themselves acting a fool. That's going to do it for me tonight, guys. I want to thank everybody that tuned in. Please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. I'll be back on. We're going to continue with the Timothy Dees case. We're going to continue with all of the phone interviews, the police interrogations, everything across the board. This is a closed case, according to the Fredericktown Police Department and the Highway Patrol there in Missouri. Timothy died of apparently natural causes, according to them. Bunch of idiots. We'll see you guys next time. Please hit the like and subscribe. Peace out, y'all. Bye.